there's getting to be more and more things written on this. I think it's emerging as kind of a new field. I'm trying to pull a lot of it together. I know whenever I go to conferences, there are consciousness conferences, there's futures conferences. They could contact the World Future Society, where we just had a conference, and there was a lot of interest in transformational perspectives as well as a lot of these new technologies. There's all kinds of, I suppose if you just opened your phone book, lots of cities now have directories of consciousness groups and alternative lifestyle groups, and there's publications coming out on, various futures publications that the World Future Society puts out. There's a book called Networking that talks about networks on all different types of issues in different cities. You could probably just open your phone directory, and if you were interested in ecology, for example, you could look that up, or spiritual things you could look up, or consciousness groups you could look up in the yellow pages and probably get names of things. There's also getting to be, conferences are a great way to begin, and possibly because it's a way to come together, hear people who are already into these things present some of the ideas, and then also get in touch with them, find out what networks are already existing so that you can start to tap into them. Marilyn Ferguson particularly talks about this in her book, The Aquarian Conspiracy. But in the past, we went out and we tried to change society first, and then we hoped that somehow all of our behavior would change, and it hasn't always done that. Whereas today what's happening is that more and more people are finding that they have to work on themselves first in a spiritual sense, become whole in themselves, balanced in harmony with themselves, and then they can go back out into the society and link up with many, many people today who have been doing the same thing. And so there's all kinds of powerful networks of people emerging today. But in my process of reviewing various evolutionary and transformational futurists, I have found something that just struck me very strongly that I would like to share with you, and illustrate the examples of Buckminster Fuller and Robert Muller and maybe a few other people to show the relationship between the personal and the planetary. And let me start with Buckminster Fuller, because his whole life is an example of the whole principle of breakdown precedes breakthrough, or crisis precedes transformation in many cases. And he was on the verge of committing suicide. I think he was 32 years old in 1927, and his daughter, one of his daughters, had died 5 years earlier. He had been trying to make money. He wasn't being successful. He felt that his whole life was collapsing around him. And so he was, seriously contemplating suicide, apparently. And he had a choice at that moment to go with the breakdown, and that would be it, or to do something else. And instead he chose to make a personal commitment to himself, to always live truthfully, to always go according to his own direct experience, not to just take something that someone else told him was true, but to test it out for himself. And thirdly, he did something that was quite revolutionary at that point, was to commit his life to serve all of humanity in whatever he did, not just to serve himself. And that's a real breakthrough if we all would start to do that. But what's really fascinating is everybody knows what resulted with Bucky Fuller. He is the planet's friendly genius. He's probably as well known as anybody on the planet. And he's designed all kinds of amazing technological things, the geodesic dome and so on. And people know that he is trying to serve humanity. They sense that from him. And so it's an example, and what's most interesting is he himself says, that he's just an ordinary person, that anybody could do what he did. And I think that that's, an important thing. We have, all of us, enormous power in us if we just take it.